everything is against you. And then in the same time, if you try to find the answer, because the Christians in the Middle East, the same as any Christian minority in Islamic countries, they live in fear. So this is a topic nobody want to talk about. So even if you try to find, let us say, answers, how we can refute those Muslims, rarely you find the brave ones who they are willing to talk about it because it's very risky. So it was a challenge, and challenge make you even better fighter, for the truth. So it was not really a bad experience for me, as much it was an encouragement. And I believe if it's not what it is, I will not be who I am today.
Do you mind me asking whereabouts in the Middle East you were?
I don't share this information for better purpose.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Now, you always heard that there was a difference. You always hear, within Islamic countries, talking about the Christian being different to the Muslims. But how did the actual general population treat you? Did you feel that you were ostracized, or were they treating you normally?
No, not really, because simply like even in the Middle East, if you are from a Christian family, but let us say, depends how powerful your family is and who you are, then they can treat you differently. In the Middle East, they discriminate everybody, even Muslims are discriminated. So I did not suffer from real problems because we are not the kind of family who take things down. Which means if somebody insult my family, they will face the consequence. It doesn't matter if they are Muslims or not. So I wasn't brought from the kind of groups who accept insult or accept discrimination. So I did not really face any problems. But the only problem we have that we don't have somebody to share answers with us and how we can refute Muslims. I mean, when you refute Muslims, you have to be careful too. You cannot say Muhammad is a false prophet. You cannot say. You have to be extremely careful when you refute them. Otherwise, you are igniting. You are looking for a fight, a big fight, and because you are the minority, obviously you are not capable of winning this fight.
Sure. Well, I've noticed the way you take on Islam is academically. Now, you actually went to university to study. What was the course called? Was it a bachelor's degree, a 3-year course?
No, yeah, I have a degree in Islamic law. I'm qualified to be a lawyer or a judge in Islamic court or any court in the Middle East. In the Middle East, when you learn law, you have to study religion. It's a must because everything is connected to religion. So you have to study Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But you study only the side where it is about Allah. Now, when it comes to Islam, Islam is involved in everything. I mean, even if you open a window in your house, Islam is involved with that. You have to go by the Sharia law. If you build a house, how high the fence should be. Everything is involved, like even the architect of buildings, streets. So Islam is trying to put itself in everywhere in life. And this is why you have to study the Islamic law. And that goes through for inheritance and divorce and marriage and crimes. So all the law is based on what is called Sharia law. But in the same time, after studying forever this cult, I found that there is nothing is called Sharia law. It is about what Muhammad he created, but it was not really Allah. It was a bunch of moody stuff. This guy something he says something in the morning, he says something the opposite afternoon. So it was not really Allah as much. It is whatever Muhammad he says we follow. Because when you say law, you are talking about like an intelligent constitution or design. But if you look at the Sharia practice, it's a very savagery and there's no logic of it, and it's full of contradictions.
I found, especially in my last episode talking to my previous guest, that Muhammad used to use the word of God to manipulate situations to his advantage. You come across this as well, what I'm saying there, does that make sense?
Well, everything in Islam is about Muhammad's example. There's nothing about the example of Islam. The Quran always speaks about that you have to obey Muhammad and Allah. And if you don't obey Muhammad, you are not obeying Allah. Like all of us, when we got Muslims, we never say Allah, we never heard Allah, there's no only Muhammad. been read in chapter 3, verse 42, it says, قل أطيعوا الله والرسول فإن تولوا فإن الله لا يحب المفسدين. Which means, obey the Prophet, obey Allah and the Messenger, and those who disobey, we also fall, and Allah we don't like. So, it's simple and clear that you have to obey Islam. The same you can find in chapter 3, verse 152. Same time we find in chapter 4, verse 59. It's all over, you know, like it's all over the Quran that obedience to Muhammad is a must, not the obedience to Allah. As an example, if you read something in the Quran, a Muslim will say to you, as an example, that mut'ah was a practice of Islam in certain time, and this is can be found in chapter 4, verse 24. Now, we are going today, the Muslim Sunnis specifically, they say to you, the Prophet will have revealed this, but didn't you obey Allah? Allah will say, Allah never says, ever, don't do mut'ah. So which one you follow? You follow Muhammad. So obviously, obedience to Muhammad is a lot more important than obedience to Allah.
Why do you think that is?
Because he is a God, I mean, he is this guy who was just replacing God by himself. Even his name is Muhammad. You know what Muhammad means?
No.
The praised one. You know, obviously he is claiming to be God because when you. So who is the praised to? Allah? You know what I mean? So Muhammad, he changed his name. His real name is Qatam. He switched it to the praised one. And by doing that, simply he is placing himself as the holy God. But yet he claimed that he is the holy servant of God, but the fact, everything about him. You see, that the Muslims, as an example, they say the Christians, by worshipping Jesus, they commit shirk, which means sharing, worshipping God with other person. But the Muslims, actually, they are the one who do that. Because for us as a Christian, we believe in the Trinity, and the Trinity is, for us, is not the three gods. But the Muslims, they always associate the name of Muhammad with the name of their God. If a Muslim says that I witness that Allah is God, is he enough to be considered to be a Muslim? No. The Shahada have to be containing two names, the name of Allah and the name of Muhammad. Now, if Muhammad believing in Allah, so why he inserted his name next to the name of Allah? And how is he qualified to be next to the name of his God? And how he can say that if you want to be saved, you have to witness that there is no God but Allah and there is no prophet but Muhammad. What about the 124,000 prophets of Islam? What about we add their names to the Shahada? Because Islamic claim that Allah, he sent 124,000 prophets and Muhammad is the last one according to the Muslims. So if the Shahada is truthful, not about Muhammad being equal to God, then the Muslim, if they want to insult and they want to insert a name of a prophet, they should add all the names of the 124,000 prophets. What about the Muslim? They show us that Moses in his times told us, because Muslims they say Moses was a Muslim. Did Moses told the Jew that you have to say there's no God but Allah and Moses is a prophet? No. Did Jesus did that? No. So why only Muhammad? Obviously Muhammad is just a person trying, he plays himself as a servant of God, but he is above his God. And his God is just a tool for his money, for his sex, for his favor. You know, Muhammad made chapters just about his private part, about his sexual needs. Even Aisha, she said to Muhammad in the Sahih Hadith, إني أرى ربك يسارع إلى هواك يا Muhammad. I see your God, he rushes into your desire, Muhammad. So even Aisha, she noticed that Muhammad is a scam. You know, what kind of God he make a chapter saying that any woman she want to give herself to the Prophet? I mean, why the Prophet need women to give themselves to him? You know, what exactly that will do to God and to Islam? If this guy is interested in spreading Islam, is that how you do it? That any woman she can take off her skirt and she jump with you in the bed? That does not make sense. So obviously, all the agenda of Muhammad is about him and him and him, and then Allah is just, you know, a name I use to give myself the authority.
I've never thought about that before. I really haven't. The fact that Muhammad puts himself in parity with his God. That's crazy to think that he could even do that, and it just shows the ego of the man.
Actually, he is more important than God. You know, the Quran says that إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي. Allah and His angels they are praying on the Prophet. Okay, how He is praying on the Prophet, I mean, how that can be? It's God, you think God and the angels all doing one thing. They are praying on Muhammad and they are saluting him. And this is going to be found in chapter 53, verse number 56. The Muslim, they will say to you that this is the word Yusallun, meaning a blessing. This is a false translation. But let us go with the Muslim false explanation. Even if Allah and the angels, they all sing the blessing of Muhammad, that will make Muhammad the center of the whole universe. Because the verse is so clear, إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Who is left? Let us see. Allah and the angels are praying on Muhammad, and the believers, they pray on Muhammad and they salute him. So the whole universe have one person in the middle, and Allah and the angels and the believers in around him, all of them, they are doing one thing, praying on Muhammad. How that can make Muhammad a servant of God, I have no idea. Obviously, he is God, because even Allah himself and the angels are his servants. When Muhammad he had a fight with his wife, Muhammad he made a verse about that, saying, if you don't repent from being against the Prophet, Allah and the angels and the believers are going to bring you back up, and this can be found in chapter 66, verse number 4. إن تتوبا إلى الله فقد صغت قلوبكما وإن تظاهرا عليه فإن الله هو مولاه وجبريل وصالح المؤمنين والملائكة بعد ذلك ظهير. So if you repent, speaking to the wives of Muhammad, what kind of God? You need to make a chapter about a guy having a fight with two of his wives. I mean, do you need God to be involved in this? You see, the Muslims, they say to us, they lie, they say, there's Bernard Shaw, he said in one of his books, which is this book, Nobody Exists, it's just a lie, that Muhammad, he can solve the problem of the world when he is drinking his coffee in the morning and finish. Well, Muhammad, he needed a chapter in the Quran to help him to fight his wives, and the verse saying that if you don't attend to women, Allah and the angels and the believers, all of them, they are going to back him up. So what do you mean he can solve it? Two women versus Allah and the angels and 1.4 billion, they will back up Muhammad fighting two women. What kind of man he is? And right away he creates Quran, and this is the best way. He noticed that when you make a Quran, there's no more argument. That's it. Allah says, you obey. So,
I just want to jump back a little bit, really, and just expand on Aisha's thoughts on Muhammad. You were saying, if I've written this down right, that he was a little bit of a, you thought he was pulling a little bit of a scam, huh? Making some dodgy moves.
Well, obviously, Aisha, she noticed that Muhammad is not being truthful. Why he made a verse saying that any woman should give herself to the Prophet. I mean, he already had many wives. And then she noticed right away that his God, he rushed into his desire. And the simple question we can ask for the Muslims, what Islam will accomplish from making a verse saying that God said that any woman can sleep with the Prophet if she wants. I mean, what the accomplishment for Islam? And this is only Allah, Muhammad. Why Muhammad, he can have those licenses? All of them, all the license of Muhammad, the private license, is about sex, money, and names. Like Muhammad, he have a special treatment in everything. Muhammad, he will be given a special river in the paradise. Muhammad, he will given Mary, the mother of Jesus, and he will be given the wife of the Pharaoh. I mean, what's wrong with this guy? Why even in heaven, a woman, she exists 600 years before him, he would be given her, which is an insult to the Christians, to sleep with him. So this guy, he concentrates in his benefit, and he is above the law. The Muslim, they can marry up to 4 women according to Muslims' understanding of the Quran. Okay, how many wives Muhammad we have? You ask any Muslim, he will say to you, oh, because he's a prophet. I never heard that because if you're a prophet, that's make you above the law. A prophet should be the first. Yeah, a prophet, he should be the best example and the first to obey, not the last one to obey.
I've got a quick question here. Let's say he's having a domestic argument with Aisha, and then he wants to have a revelation from Allah to justify his view. What type of period of time does he do? Does he go outside and come back in a couple of hours later and be like, just had a word with God? Does he go and retreat into his cave and then come back and say, I've received more revelations?
No, not necessarily.
I'm allowed to. How can he then manipulate the word of God to his own benefit?
First of all, there's no manipulating the word of God, because this is not the word of God.
Okay, yeah.
You know, this is just his own fabrication. This guy, when he says something, and he created. You know, he's very creative. At the same time, he is learning from old. I have a book and I'm working on it right now about the roots of the Quran. You will see that at his time, many people, they accuse him that he is copying it from people who they are Christians, and some they are Sabians. And Muhammad, obviously he is copying from those people. He learned a lot from them, but what he learned, he had to change a little bit of it so he can make it that he is not copying from them. As an example, if you go to chapter 16, verse 103, it says, and we know that those who they say that the one who is teaching him is a human. If you go and read behind this, you will find that they accuse him that there's a guy, as an example, his name is Addas, another person, and those are slaves who they are captured from Iraq, and supposedly they are either Nasara or Christians. And Muhammad used to listen to them, and he learned from them stories about what is called the Bible. But I believe most of the stories he learned from the Nasara, which is from the rejected Bibles, like there's books like nobody heard of, like the Bible of Paul. There is the Bible of Abraham, or let's say the section of Abraham where he goes to heaven, and the story of Paul, which is in Al-Ta'if. They did beat him, they insult him. There's a guy, he said to him, if you are really a prophet, I will strip the Kaaba. The other guy, he said to him, strip the Kaaba, which is an insult, which means the Kaaba, we will enclose the Kaaba. Which means I will stop believing in God, if you are a prophet. The other one, he said to him, God could not find someone else to send to us except you. So obviously, he was extremely unconvincing. And not only that, they throw rocks at him, they beat him, they broke his teeth, and even he took like he took a break for some time before he arrived back to Mecca, because he didn't want the people to see what happened to him there. And he asked them, those people of Taqif, what happened between us, keep it between us. Which means what you did to me, don't talk about it. But those people, they talk, and the news left all over. So Muhammad was not convincing.
Sorry, pardon to interrupt you, but these guys they lived in the pagans of the time, yeah? They were Christians and the Jews out in Mecca.
Well, the history of that era is not really too much stable to consider them what they are. However, I believe strongly they are taken through like Muhammad, and they believe in the Kaaba. Because the guy, he said to him clearly, if you are really truly a prophet, I will strip the Kaaba, which means they believe in the Kaaba. So, but still, even those, because remember, Muhammad is a pagan that's the same as the rest. Muhammad did not bring a new religion. They believe in Allah. The pagans, they believe in Allah. Many people, they think that the pagans don't believe in Allah. No, Allah is their God. Allah is their God. And they believe in the Kaaba, and they use the black stone. So what is left? What is left is that Muhammad, he don't want other gods to be around the Kaaba. He accepts only two, Allah and Akbar. Akbar and Allah supposedly merged to be one God. Akbar, unless there are two. Akbar are two gods. Muhammad, he merged together to get as many as he can from the Arabian people to join him in his religion. For those are, let us say, the most important gods. And Allah himself, you see, Muhammad is, he is shown his ignorance. If you go in the Quran, you will see the Quran speak about Ba'al. And the Arab, like, are you going to follow Ba'al and confirm that Allah is one of the three? You believe in that, and Baal is a creator, but he is not equal to Allah. So Muhammad understands who is even Baal anyway, because I believe Baal is just another name for Allah. But because it's a foreign language for him, so he could not understand what Baal is about. If you go to chapter 37, verse 125, it says clearly that Allah and Baal, both of them, they are creators, but Allah is better creator. So Muhammad, the Muslim, they try to present to us to believe in one God. We obviously we don't believe in one God, because how many creators we have? Either if you believe in one God, you then have to believe that there is one creator. If you say he is the best of the creators, that means there is many creators. And then that means there is many gods. But now we have a competition. We have a better creator. We have this quality creation. It's like, saying, cars from me, but there's cars from China. You know what I mean? So now we have two makers. One is German, is better than the one the Chinese, but that will not achieve.
I think this is a good kind of the satanic verses. I think that fits into the whole metaphor. Satanic verses series.
If you see verses are satanic verses. However, this is the one he admits that it is from Satan. You know what I mean? So this is the one he admits that Satan he cast into his mouth, but all of it is from Satan. But if you go in chapter 22, verse number 52, it's very even إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته. We never sent a messenger before thee, but he had the same put in his mouth the words, and Allah will delete it. Okay, name for me Muslims the prophet who Shaitan put in his mouth words, and then Allah will delete it. And in the same time, that will be a contradiction for the Quran. Because the Quran says clearly that Shaitan has no authority over the one who they are the good followers, of Allah. They are protected. If you go to chapter 15, verse number 42, it says, "Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim bisultan." My servants, you have no authority over them, except the one who follow you from the deceived one, the bad one, the filthy one. So if Muhammad, not from the deceived one and not from the filthy one, and the Quran confirmed in chapter 15:42 that only this kind of people Shaitan has authority over them. So how Shaitan was able to throw in the mouth of Muhammad satanic verses? Additional to that, the Muslims, they say to us that Quran is unique and nobody can make Quran. Can you make Quran? Nobody can make Quran. But here we go, Shaitan, he make Quran, Muhammad, he accept the Quran, he recite the Quran, he bow down to the idols, and Muhammad is the last one to know. So if Muhammad received Quran of the devil, and yet he could not recognize that this is not from the devil, so how you can claim and say Quran is made only by Allah when the Quran confirmed that Shaitan made Quran too? One more thing, as long the verse, the one you are talking about is called Satanic Verses 22:52, saying that Allah will delete whatever Shaitan put in the mouth of Muhammad. How we know that this verse itself is not from Shaitan? You know what I mean? Because it's just to make me relax. Because people, they know that Muhammad is a scam. He is, in the morning he say he worship only Allah, and afternoon he is with the pagans. He is bowing to their idols, and he is saying that Allah wal-Uzza wa Manat, the three daughters of Allah, their intercession is a must. And we pray to them, and we bow down to them. So people, they notice Muhammad is fake. He is not what he's saying. So now how we know that this verse itself is not made by Shaitan, as long as the Quran admit that Shaitan made verses and give it to Muhammad?
Yeah, you make a good point. Now, a counter argument that a lot of Muslims would say to people like myself is that, let's say I pick up a verse from the Quran and I start, criticizing it, they'd be like, you can't do that. You can't speak Arabic. It's not the true Quran. But you yourself, being a native Arabic speaker, they can't throw that argument at you because you can speak and not just recite the Quran in Arabic, you can actually understand it as well, which is a big difference to the majority of Muslims. Now, would you say there's a difference between interpretation between someone who can speak Arabic and whatever translate the Quran compared to a Muslim's interpretation of the Quran?
First of all, do you know what Muslims they say to me? And to you, they say to you, don't speak Arabic. For me, they don't say to me, your English is funny.
There you go.
you know, so always they will find.
They've always got an answer.
Yeah, like just last week we have a Pakistani guy. He called me in my live podcast, and he was shocked because he thought I don't speak Arabic. So he was going to say to me, listen to me, and listen to the Quran in Arabic, listen to Arabic. I said, what's wrong with you? I am an Arab. What do you listen to it in Arabic? It's a stupid book. So yeah. So what the Muslims do, first of all, they train somebody. He have a nice voice, and he sing the Quran, and then they try to have an impact on you or listening to a music. Like if you bring a singer, it doesn't matter what he is singing is going to sound beautiful because he have a beautiful voice. You know. So if you give someone you like his voice and he is very well known, if you give him the menu of a restaurant and he sing it, trust me, it's going to sound good. You know, it's a menu. It's nothing there. And the Quran is nothing but a menu, but a bad restaurant. You can't even understand what the Quran is trying to say because the Quran is suffering from a flight of thought. You know, as an example, many people they say that the Quran have like Meccan surahs and Medina surahs, right? And many people believe that Meccan surahs are the one who is peaceful and Medina surahs are the violent one. This is not really too much accurate. If you have a deep knowledge in Islam, you will find that it's not true. Uh, uh, because you will find that what is exist, as in the example in chapter of At-Tawbah, which is supposedly most of Muslims believe that this is happening in Medina. You will find that verses there, they are from the time of Mecca, which means the Quran is like a salad. It's not really, we can't say those verses or those chapters are from this and this chapter, etc. But Muhammad is making it clear. If you go to chapter 9, verse number 46, it says, and if they wanted to go out to prepare for war, uh, they will, but even if they will, but Allah, He don't want them to go because they will lose, So stay with the one who stay. So the Quran tells us why Muhammad is not going for war because he knew if he go for war right now, he will lose. He is not qualified to win a war. So people wrongly they think that Muhammad was peaceful when he was in Mecca and he was harmful when he was in Medina. Muhammad is Muhammad. But the whole difference is, I am weak right now, and I cannot do it, so I wait until I can do it. And the Quran confirm, like as an example, it says that you cry not for peace as long you are the uppermost, and this is can be found in chapter 47, verse number 35. فلا تهنوا ولا تدعوا إلى السلم وأنتم الأعلون. Cry not for peace when you are the uppermost. So the whole idea is, when I am the uppermost, I will not go for peace. When I am not the uppermost, no problem, I go for peace, but this is temporary. And that is the mentality of Muhammad. Now, the interpretation of the Quran is a different story because Muslims themselves, they cannot accept each other interpretation. This is why the Muslims, when they finish an article or trying to make a book about Islam or to give interpretation for the Quran, they say at the end, Allah knows best. Allah knows best as a statement is just like disclaimer, you know what I mean? So you don't kill me. Like because he will know right away that some people they might even seeking killing him for what he said. So even the scholar, in order to protect himself by disclaimer insurance, he says Allah knows best. So they say to him, how you say that? This doesn't mean that, etc. They say to him, you see, I told you Allah knows best. And then you will find that the Muslims agree about not to agree about what the verse means, and this is the only agreement they have. And the reason for that, the Quran was not really in Arabic. The Quran never was in Arabic. The Quran was an Aramaic book, and what we have today is the converted version of the Aramaic book. And this is why you will see the Muslims, they are so confused about understanding tons of verses in the Quran because simply this is not an Arabic book. And then when they try to explain it, then they start guessing. What does that mean?
I've got a quick question for you then. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Uthman, a third rightly guided caliph, he was the one who got rid of all the other versions of the Quran. And he wanted to have one text to learn Islam from, essentially, and everything else he just wanted to try to get rid of, so there was just one book to go to. He didn't want the controversy that was associated with the different Christian Bibles and the different chapters there. How did he go about compiling that then? And was there a lot lost? Like, what did Uthman actually do?
You see, what we have a story about Uthman, I believe is not too much true, because they don't have a book of Uthman. Do Muslims have the book of Uthman? They don't. So how we can be sure that Uthman, he made this book we have, or the Muslims they print in Saudi Arabia? And there's many versions of the Quran exist right now. As an example, if you go to Morocco, the Quran is different from the Morocco and from the Saudi one. When the Saudi get the oil, they start printing a version they accept to be the version of Uthman's book, but nobody have the Uthman book. So speaking too much about Uthman, there is no proof of it that Uthman book exist. Secondly, Uthman, according to Muslims, he burned the Quran, as you say, because obviously those other Qurans are different. And that will raise many questions, why they are different. And who is Uthman? Who gave the authority to Uthman even to do so? You know, the Muslims, they get angry from a person who burned the Quran, when the first one who burned the Quran was their caliph.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which doesn't make sense. But the Quran says that the one who will collect the Quran is Allah. You know, it's not Uthman, it's not even Muhammad. This is why in the beginning, like there's a statement that says, we fought them for collecting it, for writing it, and we fought them for preserving it. Which means it was not really, Muhammad did not say that to write the Quran, did not say that. In chapter 75, verse number 17, it says, Inna alayna jam'ahu wa Qur'anahu. It is on us to collect the Quran and to recite the Quran. So Muslims, for them, it's not their duty to collect the Quran. Same time, where is the Quran of Muhammad? Why we need even the Quran of Uthman? You know? Because remember, Uthman is just like he's a companion of Muhammad, and there is no way that Muhammad he have a book, and then the Muslims don't have it. I mean, okay, you say to us that the Christians corrupted their book. You could not preserve the book of your prophet for a few years after his death. You know what I mean? There's tons of places speaking about Muhammad. He had Quran. As an example, in the Hadith, Aisha, she said that when Muhammad he passed away or died from poison, a goat or a sheep came inside the house and grabbed the Quran from under the bed of Muhammad or the pillow of Muhammad, and she ate the Quran, and this can be found in Sunan Ibn Majah. So the goat who ate the Quran, how the goat can eat the Quran if there's no Quran?
Hold on here. We just right. Muhammad's death. First of all, I'm not too familiar with that. Of course, as you just said, he got poisoned, so I'd love to talk about that a little bit. But a goat that ate the only copy of the Quran after his death, that sounds crazy.
This is what Aisha, she said, you know, it says, the verse of the stoning, I'm reading for you the Islamic translation, not my translation. For me, I read Arabic, I don't care for the translation, but I will use their own, just to show the Muslims that this is how it is. The verse says it clearly. Let us put it on the screen for those who are watching so they can see with us. The verse of the stoning and the breastfeeding for adults 10 times was revealed, and the paper was with me. Actually, it doesn't say paper, this is called sahifa. Sahifa is like sheets. Was under my pillow. When the Messenger of Allah died, we were preoccupied with his death, and a tam sheep came and ate it. That's it. You know. So now we have, based on this story, the goat who ate the Quran. If not all of it, Aisha here is mentioning 2 chapters or 2 stories. The verse is about the breastfeeding for adults, and maybe you do not know about this. Muhammad, he ordered them from the Quran that Muslim women, she can give women, they don't have milk always. I mean, all of us, we knew women, they have milk only when they give birth. You know, woman is not a cow, and she has a faucet, she opens her nipples and she has milk. So A woman, she is not really even too much young. I mean, she don't have babies, and this is why even they adopted a child or a person. When Muhammad, she came to Muhammad to complain about her husband is jealous from this man because he looked at her. Muhammad, he says, give him your breast, let him suckle it. So this is not about milk, have nothing to do with milk, and this is a breastfeeding for adults, which means it's just sucking the nipples of women. And we do not know how in the world, if a man having dirty look at a woman in a sexual way, if a woman she gave her nipples to him, that will stop him. That will make him go crazy more. But this is the logic of Muhammad, and obviously he's making fun of them. You know, whatever Muhammad says, they take it, they accept it, they practice it. You know, there's no, let us say, there's no logic in the logic.
That's a great expression. Now, you were saying there before that one of the chapters that the Code 8 was talking about men breastfeeding. There's a lot of allusion towards sexual activity in the Islamic scriptures, isn't there?
Well, all of Islam is based on money and sex. So, like, if you go to heaven, what you will get? Muhammad described your house as a brick of
Loads of
gold.
virgins.
Yeah,
Houses as well. I didn't know this.
yeah, but everything starting from the second you enter. First of all, Allah will make you white because no black people are allowed to enter heaven. Everybody have to be white. Oh yeah, everyone have to be white. You know, if in the Quran you see Muhammad, you are so clear, and the Muslims they try to fool people about those verses. But Muhammad he said that in the day of judgment, chapter 3, verse 106, يوم تبيض وجوه وتسود وجوه. The day the faces will turn white and the faces will turn black. The Muslims they try to make it as the day they will be faces will be happy and faces will be sad. The Sunnah doesn't say that. If you go to Ibn Kathir, you go to the scholars, you go to the interpretation, especially the oldest one, you will see that it says clearly that there's a beast, his name is a Jassasa. If we go to chapter of An-Naml, verse number 82, it says that this beast of Jassasa is going to come from the grave, from the ground, and she will hit the believer and the disbeliever by the stick of Moses and the ring of Solomon. And the believer will turn totally white, and the disbeliever will turn totally black. So it's literally about being black and being white. And Allah, and not only that, when people before they enter paradise, people they sit together, and then right away they will not notice who is a Muslim, who is not. How? Because he's white. So when you see a black person, that means he is a bad person. He is a disbeliever. And when you see a white person, that means he's a good Muslim. He's a Muslim. So Islam is extremely racist religion. As an example, Muhammad he says, وَقْتُلُوا كُلَّ أَسْوَدٍ بَهِيمٍ, kill any black animal, pure black animal. And he said, when they asked him about why he ordered to kill black dogs as an example, he said the black dog is the devil. Now, I challenge any Muslim to tell me why the black dog is the devil. Now, about sex, we did not cover the point of sex. So, racism about being white, this is why Muhammad he promised the Muslim men very white women to the point you can see their bones. And he promised them that you will have gold and silver in the heaven. Even your house will be one brick of gold, one brick of silver, and the land will be from rubies. And your house will be from pearls. Then the virgins, and those virgins, simply they are sexually made for the purpose of one purpose, which is sex. But I find the story is very stupid because, additional that it is a fiction, but imagine all women, somebody, he came to your door, now in Earth, and he delivered to you, delivery, shipping, coming from Hong Kong, and he opened the container and you find 70 women or 80,000 women, but all of them, they have one name and they have the same eyes and they have the same look. So what's the point?
That's a good point, isn't it?
I mean, all of them, they look the same. All of them, they have a name, four. They don't have names. Their name is four. All of them, they have the same face, the same eyes. All of them, they have black eyes and etc. All of them, they have the same shape. All of them in one age. All of them even the breast size is the same, exactly copy paste. So what the point of having sex with all those women is all of them are the same women. Imagine you have one wife, and God, he copied for you 10 of her. I mean, what's the point?
That makes no sense. I never knew that.
It's a madness, you know. Islam is a religion of stupidity, and the more you are stupid, the more you believe in it.
Yeah, indeed. So, back to sex, Islam, I suppose, forget sex, masturbation. There's a lot of rules and guidelines as to how to masturbate in Islam, isn't there?
Well, you know, the Muslims, they have a lot of weird stuff. As an example, you can masturbate with watermelon. You can
We'll try it later.
Yeah, I do not need to give reference. Anyone who's listening, he can just go and type right now, Islam, you know, sex with watermelon, or sex with dog, or sex with statues, or sex with even with Muslim women, they can do masturbation. Like they can use a cut of penis. Or they can use a karambij, which is a piece of feather round as a sex toy. So obviously the Muslims, they have sex toys long before anyone had them, before Playboy. Even actually Muhammad, you know, he mentioned that in the heaven of Allah, there is a market, and this market had no buying nor selling except pictures. And if a believer man, he liked the image, he enter it and he will have sex with it. So even Playboy magazine was created before Muhammad, long before the Playboy magazine in America.
Wow. Now, why watermelons? Is there some kind of law forbidding you from using your hands? Is that frowned upon?
Well, you know, you see, the Muslims, they have an idea that there is no shame in religion. This is why if you watch Islamic TV, it's kind of like a comedy. I remember once a Muslim woman, she called the TV, and she said, obviously she is, excuse my language, obviously she is a whore. And she is making fun of those two guys, the scholars, the sheikhs on the TV. Because she's, you know, she made them sweat. She's talking in a very horny way. And then she starts saying, when I take off my clothes, the fish, they start shaking. And then the sheikh, he drank the water like she's thirsty for 10 years. You know, he was really sweating. And obviously she made him excited. And then he said to her sister, obviously those fish, they have a gene and they are looking at your beautiful pure body. So I advise you not to take off your clothes in front of the fish tank. So she said, but this is the only room I have that I can do. Then the sheikh, he said, well, in this case, you better cover it by a blanket. So sexuality in Islam is about everything, because imagine eating fish is going to masturbate when she sees a Muslim. So the fish is shaking in the fish tank because she is taking off her clothes. Muslims believe even that their women, they cheat on them by having sex with the genie. But they don't consider it as a cheating because they knew it is the genie is powerful and he can do that. So once a guy, he called the TV station, he said, once you open the door, and so he's asking the sheikh what he should do. He said, obviously your wife, she is having an affair with the genie. The best way to get rid of him is to read Quran.
Now look, what's the logic behind Muslim women wearing burqas and things along those lines? Because, you know, I kind of understand in my head, but I'm kind of a little bit confused, let's say. Is it to stop the men from just being over-sexually compulsed, if that's even a word, to go and, you know, have sex with them? Or is it to kind of like prevent the women from molesting the men? Like, what's the deal? Is to stop men from being sexually attracted to women and just going crazy?
Well, you know, Muhammad, he made an image for the women as a devil. Muhammad, he said that the women, she comes, yeah, this is how he said. He said, the women, she comes, she advances and retires in the shape of the devil. So one of you sees a woman, he should come to his wife, and for that will reveal what is in his life. So Muhammad, he told them clearly that all women are shaitan. Just by seeing a woman, you are seeing a shaitan. So no matter what you do, you are going to be excited by looking at a woman. And Muhammad, he mentioned that women, they have many awra. Awra in Arabic, it is something shame to show, or they should not expose in public. But you see, the awra we know usually, it's like your private part, you know, or the women breast for women. uh, like to show, reveal things should not be revealed. But in Islam, all the women is a awra. Muhammad, he says the women, when she get married, she cover only one awra, which means she secure one part, that is her vagina. And she cover all. So she is awra, all of her. She have 10 awra. Her voice is awra, her face is awra, her hands is awra. All of them, they are private part. And when she get married, she cover only one awra. When she dies, she cover them all. So the only way for a woman to be, for her private part is not going to be exposed is death. But Muhammad, the funny, the hypocrisy about Muhammad, when he said that the woman she come and retire in the shape of a devil, then we need to ask ourselves, if the woman is a devil, she come in a shape of a devil and she live in the image of the devil, why Muhammad he have 13 devils at home, they are wives, and God knows how many hundreds of sex slaves, if they are devils? Why he want to have from them as much as he can?
Indeed, it's like it's void of logic. Islam. It's like they throw all these things, and if you actually start listening and going deep, just the mathematics behind it, the calculation, it just doesn't add up. It makes no sense.
If you want to talk about sense of Islam, nothing makes sense. Like, what sense when Muhammad he says that Allah will make the penis of the Muslim man endless? I mean, imagine a man he have an endless penis. What he can do with it? Imagine you have a woman next to you, but your penis is in different galaxy. What you would do? You will call him to come back, make a U-turn. So all the stories Muhammad he come with is kind of madness. And to speak about make sense, that is the last thing. It's like you are making what they call it, a dark comedy. But, Muhammad in sense, like what it makes sense that you will have an orgasm of 70 years.
That's pretty much your life, huh?
Yeah, like, you go to visit Muhammad, you knock at the door, Muhammad is having an orgasm, you can hear him. So you come next year. Next year you come, you go around the world and you come back. And then you knock at the door, Muhammad is still having orgasm. You come next year, the year after, and the year after, and the year after, and Muhammad is still having orgasm. You go and you spin, you visit Hong Kong, you visit Philippines, you visit Japan, you visit Sydney. You come back, Muhammad is still having orgasm. I mean, how in the world we can speak about logic when it's come to this man?
True. It's amazing he had time for anything else.
Yeah. Well, Muslims, always Muslims, when they hear things which is really obviously stupid, right away they will say to you, those hadith are weak. Anything you say to them, it's weak, it's weak. Now, if we say to the Muslims, what is logic in the Quran to describe for us the books of the women? Hadith is weak. Everything we say is weak. Is the Quran is weak? Why we need to know the size of the women books in the Quran? What is exactly the point of that? Obviously, but all of Islam is a mad religion. What kind of God you want to promise me that in the heaven I'm going to have a bracelet? I can go to the mall right now and I can get 10 of them, and a bracelet. And what the point of a promise me I will have a couch? Come here.
These the incentives. So you die, go to heaven.
Yeah,
you get a bracelet and a nice couch.
So those, you go to heaven and then you find there a couch. I mean, that's it.
That's it. Yeah,
come here in America, drive it through, like during the day they collect garbage, and you will see how many couches in the street, and they are new. You put TV here in the street about it, big screen TV. So, couches, bracelets, pillows. Allah He promising me pillow. So the promises, obviously, they are made for those Arabs who work Bedouin. They dream to because it's a fantasy. This is something they never saw before. So now He is promising me a garden and have a grape. Believe it, a grape. We will eat a grape in the heaven. And you will have clear water. Yeah, clear water. Yeah, and even the water is clear because finally, those people they suffer from drinking water because most of it, it's because they don't have springs of water. So the water is salty. I don't know if you've been in Saudi Arabia or any in the Gulf countries. water there, even if you find it, it is not healthy, it is salty. This is why you see in countries like Saudi Arabia, when they build, you see a Saudi guy, he built a nice villa. And then after 10 years, the villa is coming down apart. Why? Because the sand is full of salt. The concrete is full of salt. They can't get rid of it. The water itself is full of salt. So when you build concrete or you build a building and the building contains a lot of salt, that means the concrete is weak because salt is salt. So he promised them clear water. Finally, we will have a clean water. He promised them that he will not have heat. The promise to make for somebody living in Saudi Arabia, but somebody living in that. If you say to him, I will give you a heaven, or even you in India, but most of the year you have the sun is not there. So imagine, I promise you, you will go to heaven, and this heaven have always rain. I mean, or you will never see the sun, or you will never have heat. I mean, this is people, they pay money to go and lay down under the sun in many places. You know, they have take machines to get that. So the promises is made for a Bedouin man who live in the desert, fit with his mentality. And this mentality is, they like, as an example, the Arab, they love to drink. They are drunken nation. So Muhammad, he promised them rivers of wine, not a cup of wine, rivers. And then they like honey, so river of honey. They like milk, river of milk, you know. So all those rivers, it's just to satisfy the needs of a Bedouin man. If Muhammad are from Germany, Muhammad will add a river of beer.
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And some blackbirds as well. And that's also German.
Yeah, and some hamburgers, shish kebab.
Very nice, very nice. Look, I tried to interrupt you twice on that. I said a but and a but and a but, and then my question has gone to that time. But I still want to discuss this topic, which is free will within Islam. Can you discuss that a little bit, please?
Well, in Islam there is nothing is called a free will. You see, the Islam is, all of it is about based on something is called al-qadar. The Muslim, he cannot be a Muslim if you don't believe in al-qadar, which means destiny. All the Quran is based on this. As an example, Muhammad, he makes it so clear that when a person, before he's born, Allah, he writes his destiny many years before he came to existence. As an example, there is a story in the Hadith about Moses and they have a debate, they have an argument. Moses says to Adam, let me go to because they can't see it. Moses says to Adam, because of you, we are out of paradise. So Moses, he said to Adam, he said to Moses, do you blame me for something Allah he wrote for me in my destiny 40 years before he created me? So even the sin of Adam was not a choice for Adam. And Muhammad, he says, and this is how Adam was able to overcome Musa's argument. So the correct answer is, the sin of Adam was not his choice. It was written for him 40 years before his creation. And this is the hadith in front of us for those who are seeking reference. 40 years before the creation of Adam, Adam, he commit, Allah, he wrote for him a sin. And it says there, are you going to blame me for which Allah had organized for me 40 years before my creation? So, which is very stupid, by the way, because if Adam, he commits sin, and that was the plan of Allah, and Allah is the one who wrote the sin for him. It doesn't make sense. But as we said, nothing in Islam makes sense. And the same for everything. Muhammad, he said that one of you will do the work of people of heaven, and that there's a distance of the people between him and the group of heaven. And then what is written by Allah will take over, and he will start doing the act of people of hellfire, and he will go to hellfire. And case, vice versa. When a person is given the heart of hellfire, and then what is written in his life, the deed of hellfire, and then what is written by Allah will take over, and then he will start doing the deed of paradise, and then he will go. So going to hell, going to paradise, is not really good in your deeds. Muhammad will make it so clear. You can do it, and that's Allah will work for you. It means you can go for Islam, you don't convert your Islam. So it is written for you already. Very well. One more thing, just to make it more there is a story of a child who died, and Aisha, she said, there is a paradise for this child. There is a paradise in the place of paradise. This guy is just an infant, he died, and he will be in heaven. So Muhammad, he rebuked her and he said, "I didn't for her." So Allah, he created for heaven, who is for heaven, and who is for hell, who is over before he created heaven. So which means he is saying, I doesn't see it going to hell in heaven. Are you getting my idea? If the Aisha said it clearly, that this child would not even reach the age of committing sin. But Muhammad is still did not like what she said, that he guaranteed to go to heaven through Allah, and he decided, he wrote his destiny before he created him. So the idea of Islam is a patient aspect of Islam. In one place says that if you commit sin, you go to hell. If you disobey Allah, you go to hell, blah, blah, blah. And then here we see a child who is a son of a Muslim family, and yet he will not go to heaven guaranteed, because Allah wrote before he created him. If he will go to heaven, or he will go to hell, but yet you have not sinned. In the Bible we find the opposite. Jesus said, you cannot go, you will not enter the heaven. So, which means the children are going to go to heaven. Muhammad, he had a totally different idea. Heaven has nothing to do with this deed. However, by the way, in the conclusion, he contradicts himself. You see what he says, like the Quran says, those who do the deed, etc., the paradise for them. Here, we find the opposite. And this is
people who then go and do horrible prostitutes or murder people in the name of Islam. And I think actually do murder people. So they're fellow Muslims. Do they think, well, because he actually achieved his attack, it was the good of God, and he did God's action, and then how can I get him? Because this is what God wanted. Is that correct?
I don't know if you watch any videos of the conversation, but in Arabic they say, in chapter 8, verse number 17, you did not kill them, but Allah is the one who killed them. وَمَا رَمَيْتُ إِذْ رَمَيْتُ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. I did not shoot my arrow, it was the arrow of Allah. So when the Muslim, he taught in the Quran, and this is Quranic verse, this is not hadith. When Allah is talking, yes, it is you hold the sword, it's you who killed them, but in fact, it's not you who killed them, it is Allah. It is not you who shoot, it is Allah. And the verses in the verse we read, and they are listening. You see, we don't say things without proof and reference, and we make it clear for everybody. So you did not slay them, it was Allah who did slay them. And you did not shoot, it was Allah who shoot. So what is that of the crime? Nothing. It is Allah who did it. And but when it's about a crime, you see, the Muslims, they have two sections. Crime is to kill a Muslim. But it is not a crime to kill a Muslim. The Muslims, they lie to us, they say, the Quran says, if a person killed an innocent man as if he killed all mankind. That verse is about killing a believer.
Okay.
Yeah, they lied to you because they didn't know Arabic and you do not know that. You didn't have a good knowledge in Islam. So they quote always, even Obama, he was quoting for us this verse. But this verse is not about killing non-Muslims, because Muhammad, all for his Quran, chapter 9, verse 29, there's many verses clearly saying, go and fight those who don't believe in Allah and don't believe in Muhammad and last day, etc. from the Christian and the Jews. That's the reason why, because they don't believe in Allah. And Muhammad, he sent the three letters to three kings saying, convert or else, Aslam Taslam, you wanna be safe, convert. And here we see that Allah is saying to them, it's not you who slew them, it is Allah. It's not you who shot you arrow, it was Allah. That's why the terrorist, like in the field, you see in the video, he said, وَمَا رَمَيْتُ وَإِنَّمَا اللَّهَ رَمَى. وَمَا رَمَيْتُ. It is Allah who, it's not me who shoot, it's Allah who shooting. So the Muslims are convinced, based on their religion and the Quran, that when they shoot, it's Allah shooting. When they kill...
So how... just a quick question. So how, if you're a devout Muslim, someone who follows Islam, you know, you believe with all your heart, can you criticize the actions of ISIS?
As a Muslim, you cannot criticize anything. Islam is about, you see, many people, they say Islam means submission. That's absolutely false. Islam means you surrender. So the second you start questioning, you are an apostate. You can,
really?
oh yeah.
You start questioning, you're an apostate straight away.
You see, all the verses of killing in Islam is about apostasy. You know, like some naive ones, like you have a guy, his name, I forgot what his name. Somebody tell me, guys, the guy in England, he have a show. Nawaz?
Majid Nawaz.
Yeah. In his show, he said that, Islam says there is no compulsion in religion, etc. But this verse is not about really what he is saying. This verse is saying that Muhammad, he heard in the news that the Jews, they are not allowed in their children to believe in Islam. So Muhammad, he said to them, you cannot force your children not to convert to Islam, but Muhammad, he will kill them if they will leave Islam. And if you go, in the Quran, you will find it clearly that the Quran is speaking that with no doubt that you have to do jihad against anyone who questions the authority of the Prophet and question the authority of Allah. So when a person he speaks to us about Islam is not forcing you to convert or not forcing you to believe or you can leave Islam, that is a false statement and have nothing to do with the truth. All the wars of Islam is about apostasy, and there is something people do not notice, that the Muslims believe that every person is born as a Muslim. Muhammad, he taught his followers, I don't know if you heard this before, the Muslims, everybody, you and me, the Hindus, the Buddhas, everybody is born as a Muslim. And then his family...
They use the expression revert to Islam, don't they? Not convert, you revert to Muslim.
Yeah, Muslim. Right. This is why they say the word revert, because simply you used to be a Muslim, but your family made you Christian or a Jew or a Hindu or a Buddha. So everyone is born a Muslim, but he leaves, the religion, and because of that, so he have to be killed. So all the war, as an example, if you go to chapter 9, verse number 73, it says, يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين. So the Muslim, they translate, they say, oh Prophet, do jihad against the kuffar. We know who is the kuffar, those who refuse to believe in Muhammad as a prophet. Okay, who is the munafiqeen? Those are the apostate. So when somebody like this guy, Nawaz, he said there's in Islam, in the Quran, there's no verses speaking about killing apostate, he's speaking his ignorance. So fight those who they are kuffar and those who they are ex-Muslims, the apostate. Now who is the ex-Muslim? All of us, including the Muslim who leave Islam today, or the one who is born as a Muslim, but they decide to leave Islam later. So all the killing in Islam is a killing of an apostate. Mistakenly, people think that when jihad is carried on, is jihad against someone, he is a Christian only. The fact is, for the Muslims, he is not a Christian, he is an apostate.
Of course, we're all apostates, we've all left.
Everybody is
there was a conscious choice, we've all left Islam.
Yes, this is all, and there is no question, there is always another. The problem is when you try to reach out to knowledge and you don't speak Arabic and you don't have a good knowledge, even if you speak Arabic, it's not enough really to get the clear meaning, because you have to study hard, you have to research, you have to find things, you have to connect the dots together. You know, studying Islam is the same as an investigator trying to find who did the crime, because the Quran is like imagine it, I give you some rice, and then I give you 1 gallon of sand, and then I say to you, okay, this is the sand and this is the rice, and I mix them together, and then find out which is sand and which is rice. So you have to spend a lot of time trying to find out where we can find the rice and where is the sand. In Islam, there's a lot of sand, which means it will make you confused. Verses are not connected. The Quran verses have nothing to do with each other most of the time. The Quran author is suffering from flight of stroke. This is why, yeah, you see suddenly one verse is talking about the flying carpet, the second verse is talking about something else. So there is no connection between them. However, if you go as an example to chapter 9, verse number 73, and verse number 74, those two verses are very much connected. They explain each other. Muhammad, he had to do jihad against the unbelievers and against the hypocrites, and do jihad against them. And then verse number 74 explain who are those the munafiqeen. It says those who they are after leaving Islam, they left Islam. So a person who do not know, he will tell you there's not even a single verse in the Quran speaking of that. But all of us, we knew there's a war, it's called the war of apostate. And this war happened right away after Muhammad's death. And the one who carried it is Abu Bakr. So was Abu Bakr not a good believer? There's no Muslim would dare to say no, except if he's a Shia. So obviously no war exists from the time of Muhammad. For all the wars of Islam is a war of Muslim, they say to you, we are born with fitra. What is fitra? We are born as a Muslim.
Now, look, just to focus on this a little bit, you were talking about that you've got, look, Salam, and then which is the land of Islam, and the land of God. Now, any place that's under Islamic, the Sharia law is the land of God. What do you feel, if that's the case, that's how they look at us, how do you feel about the rise of Islam in Western countries?
But I believe the rise of Islam, if we can use that term, exists because of the Western ignorance. You see, the Western, they sponsor Islam for a long time, and until now they are doing that. If you go in any media TV stations, like just last week I saw a news about UK police promoting Islam in a video. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, how do you do that? I mean, it's a madness. So we don't want to speak about the rise of Islam. We want to speak about the rise of the stupidity in the West. Islam, I'm honest with you. There is no place for Islam in the West unless there are stupid people in the West. And this is what we are suffering from. We have a lot of stupid, ignorant people who have no idea what they are doing. They are bringing the devil to their houses, and they are seeking destruction of their own country. Otherwise, Islam has no place anywhere. You know, go to Saudi Arabia. What is Islam? Even in Saudi Arabia, terrorists have no place. So how can we find a place in England? I just saw in the news that 454 fighters of ISIS, right now as we speak, they came back from Syria to England. How you allow them to get back? 400
twice.
Yeah, almost 500 fighters who are trained for years how to make bombs. You know, you will have fun. You will have a lot of fun in England soon. So 500 people, you allow them to get in. How this happened? Where is the intelligence? Where is the police? Where is the government? Where is, obviously, the West is suffering from big problem. Islam is not the problem. The problem is the Western who have no idea what they are doing. You see, like imagine, you bring me a cobra, in a box. And you say to me, don't open the box, there's a cobra there. Right? And then I open the cobra box, and I give her a name, and I think it's a bear. It's a cute. It's a cobra. You know, the cobra is a cobra. And this is exactly what the Western are doing with themselves. So I don't know blame the Muslims. And the ways of Islam, I don't believe there's something called the ways of Islam, but what happened, you see, atheism attacked Christianity for the last centuries in Europe. So Western, they became empty. And